In this episode, we're joined by Sondra Ajasin, who shares with us her calling to help foster families that eventually led to her starting an organization called TruLight127 Ministries. You're listening to the Good Gossip Podcast.
Welcome back. It's the Good Gossip Podcast, and I'm Todd Revis.
And I'm Melissa Elizondo.
And we have an awesome guest today, and I want you to introduce her because you got her here.
Oh, yes. So this is Sondra Ajasin, and I had heard about you and met you one time at Dawn Levis's party, but Dawn in her episode had mentioned you, and then later your friend.
Well, earlier than that, Laura Gerald was one of our first guests, and she mentioned you. And I think, I want to say both of them, we have a thing that we do, and I'll go ahead and let the cat out of the bag. But at the end of the episode, we're going to give you an opportunity to good gossip about someone else, like who in your life, and it could be anybody you want. Well, we asked that question to Laura, and you were one of the ones, her sister and you. And her sister, I guess, is the one that let her know about you guys. Yeah. And from TLU. And then Dawn, I think, also mentioned you as one of the people that just stood out as someone in their life that they wanted to brag about. And because that's basically what good gossip is bragging instead of talking bad about somebody, right? And so that's how we knew about you. So you've been on our radar for months, maybe a year. And so finally, Melissa was able to reach out. You have a person that works for you.
Yes.
And she handles some of your social media, and we've texted her and we've texted back and forth. And I think it was kind of like out of the blue. She's like, "Are y'all still wanting Sondra?" Yeah. And we're like, "Yes, thank you."
yes. And we're back in the studio.
And good, yes. So she is the one that made this happen, really.
Yeah.
And,
but then Dawn gave me your cell phone. So then that's how I texted you.
So. She just freely gives it out.
I was like, "Do you have her number?" She was like, "Here you go." I was like, "Okay."
Well, that's cool. That's a talent in this industry, is finding out how to get a hold of people. And asking them. But so for you guys that are listening, the reason that we wanted her on so much is because we really appreciate what you do, and we don't really know a lot about it, other than what has been good gossiped about you, bragged about you about. But I know it deals with foster, and I know it deals with helping. I know TruLight127 is your ministry, and the 127 is James 127, which talks about our responsibility as Christians to help orphans, widows and orphans. And so that you took that seriously one day, and tell us kind of how that's
the beginning.
Yeah,
Tell me how
I think it goes back
about.
to 2015-ish, and you had another job, and then your garage. And can you tell us that story? Tell us a little bit about that.
I started working with foster kids in 2008, actually. Okay. Up until then, my career was with the elderly. It's where I thought my college degree was going to go. Like, this is the path I thought I was going to go down. I really liked working with the elderly. They were fun. They're like, some of them are like big grown-up kids, man. And they tell the best stories. Like, you learn so much from them. But then when I started going back to school and getting my degree, I had a professor who just pushed me. Literally, I felt like she shoved me into CPS's door. She's like, "Oh, you're going to apply for this, and this is what you're going to do." And I was like, I'm not really feeling that. Like, I should not be helping kids. Like, I'm not even sure if I'm over my own childhood trauma. And then fast forward to 2014, I really started to really feel like God wanted more for me. I was working with kids in care. I'd been an investigator at CPS. I'd done family-based services. I'd worked in Arkansas and Texas, and I'd done some CASA work in different places. And so I felt this tug to do more, and we're human. So my first thought was, I feel like I'm already doing more. Like, what more can I be? What more do you want from me? Like, I feel like I'm giving it all. I had 2 kids at that point, and was working full time, and I just kept feeling the tug. And everything, I was going to conferences and things, and every time I went, I would feel a different tug and a different tug. And finally, it got to the point where I was like, okay, here I am. And by then, my life had gotten miserable. And it's kind of like, I always joke and say God was probably laughing, going, yeah, if you'd listened to me, 6, 7, 8 months ago, we wouldn't be here.
I was tugging on you the whole time.
I was trying to be a gentleman, but no, you didn't want to listen.
What did Oprah say one time? She's like, sometimes you need a nudge, sometimes you need a 2x4.
Yeah, I think he took the 2x4 at that point. It was like, okay, all days, get the switch if you don't move on, girl. And so I started out of our garage. I just thought, okay, here we are. I told my husband, Yomi, I was like, I don't really know where this is going, but I feel like we're supposed to be a support to kids in care. And so we started with backpacks and clothes and diapers and wipes, just whatever we could collect to give to people who were taking in kids so we could help them start fresh. And so a lot of times people think that foster parents get money like out the wazoo for some reason.
Like there's this government pipeline
pours
that
it down.
pours it down on
You know,
you get rich.
And the reality is,
so that's not true.
No, the reality is they get a very minimal daily reimbursement, and that doesn't usually come for like a month after the kids have been there. So my hope is that I could get them going. Like, how can we get kids, safe in the home, but how can we help those parents support them? And so we would have people just show up in our garage. Matter of fact, Laura Gerald's sister, one time I was in Missouri for Thanksgiving or Christmas, and right after we started, and she called and she's like, hey, there's this family, and I was like, hey, my garage code is this. Like, I don't know. Like, can you go help them?
That's awesome.
And so we were just working from there. And my husband really pushed me. He was like, this is what you're supposed to do. You're good with licensing families. These are the things you're good at. You should do this. And at first I was really nervous. I mean, I never started a business, let alone a nonprofit. Like, I had no idea like what I was doing, and argued back and forth with him. And then finally one night I said, you know what, if the class is open, because there's a certain class you have to take, then fine, I'll take it and we'll see.
That's
and
a
I
sign.
Literally got in the Tuesday class following that.
Careful.
Yeah. And just a few months later, we had our license to licensed family. And then in June of 2016, we got our contract with the state to go ahead and start placing kids in our foster homes. And so we placed our first kid, was June 3rd, 2016, 13-year-old boy who was coming from a residential treatment center. And his family was getting licensed for us for him, and they ended up adopting him later. And so it started with that family and with that 13-year-old boy. And now fast forward to 2021, we've placed over 1,000 kids in safe homes. And in 2019, we actually started a children's home on 10 acres in Seguin. And so we've got 4 homes because we had 20 beds altogether. And then in the middle of COVID, because why not? God said, hey, here's this wonderful donor. And this guy called us up, amazing man. And he's like, yeah, go buy 2 houses. And so we expanded to 35 beds at that point. So now we have 35 kids that live on property, and they come and go depending on their cases. Sure. But we've been able to help over 200 just at TruLight Youth Village alone since October of 2019.
Okay, so a couple of things I want to circle back to. If you're taking notes at home, these are bullet points. One is you've used this. Now I understand, but you were saying kids in care, and that's a term you use for foster care or care of the government or care of someone other than their natural parents.
Those are these kids that we work with have been removed from biological parents or other caregivers who are responsible for them for abuse or neglect in that home. And that could be a variety of things: drug use, sexual abuse, physical abuse. All kinds of types of abuse happen to these kids. And so the state, CPS, has stepped in, done an investigation, and needed to remove those kids to keep them safe.
So, and then also, we had a guest on our show last season, Amanda. Mm-hmm. And she was out of the Waco area.
Amanda Moore. Yep.
Mandy Moore. What was the name of her ministry? Dang it. I can't think of it. They don't license and do what you're doing.
They only help the families with supplies.
They have supplies.
Like
and they're actually
Foster Village Waco.
Foster Village Waco. Thank you. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to look it up on my phone. But just a neat organization, and she shed a lot of light to us and our listeners on what it means to foster and what it doesn't mean. Yeah. And I think a lot of people think there's a permanent nature to it. And what's probably one of the most difficult things for a foster family, a licensed household, is that it's temporary. Yes. And that your hope is that it's temporary, that they're going to get to go back to a healthy environment. So can you talk a little bit about that as far as how you ministered, how you support the families so they understand? Is there training? Is there what goes on to help those people understand what they're signing up for? And how emotionally
Yeah, some of them adopt. We get that.
Yes.
But they have to have a whole different heart to foster and let them go.
Yes.
You know?
And that was funny because at lunch today, a lady was asking me, so how do you let kids go once they come in your house? And I was like, well, you just let them go. And she was like, that's simple. I was like, of course not.
Of course not.
Of course it's not that simple. So really, that is the hope. So God created us to take care of our own kids, right? That is the first goal of family, is that we're to take care of our own kids. And if we can't, then hopefully an aunt or an uncle can step in and take care of our kids if something was to happen to us. But we live in a different world. And so a lot of times these kids are brought into care because they can't find somebody who is in the family to take care of them. Mm-hmm. Or it takes a while to find that person in the family. And so when they come into care, to foster them means just that. It's just like you're just going to take them in for a little while, love on them, give them everything that they need to survive, to become into a place where they can start to find healing. You're not healed just because you come into foster care. That's for sure. It's actually damaging to come into foster care. I mean, you're removed from every single thing you know. I tell my foster parents all the time that if you went home today and your house was burned down, I bet you can come up with at least 3 people that you could call, that you could find support and help.
Absolutely.
At least 3. Well, these kids get removed from their home and they can't call anybody. Oftentimes, they are completely disconnected from every family member, all of their schools, all their neighborhood, their doctors, like everything's gone for them. And they don't get the right to just call somebody and say help, right? Mm-hmm. So they just get lost and they're just here, take care of these kids. Mm-hmm. And people need to understand that is the hope, that their parents get it right. That's the best for the kids. If their parents can say, man, I screwed up, let me fix this. Let me get my kids back and let us be healthy again. Then that's the best for the kids. And so our hope is when they're coming to care that it won't be a long-term situation if at all possible. Yeah. Sadly, it's not always possible for them to go back home. And that's the situation where we're hoping that a kinship comes up or that family can adopt them. Mm-hmm. But letting go is hard. I mean, I was a foster parent. We just closed our house 2 weeks ago, I think, after our last adoption. And our first placement that came to us was a 2-day-old baby girl. And she was born with drug addiction. And she stayed with us for 8 months. And that's a long time. I mean, she literally came from the hospital to our doorstep. Yeah. And in the midst of that, my husband's mom passed away. And so she couldn't sleep because of the withdrawals from drugs, and he couldn't sleep because he was grieving. And so they even created a really strong bond between them, and I could see it developing. And it was like they just comforted each other. And then a few months later, she went on to a kinship placement. And it was hard. It was hard. I mean, she was just tiny.
I mean, praise the Lord, she's
she was a tiny 4.5-pound little baby girl and left us as this healthy 8-month-old girl. And I had to say, this is exactly what we're meant to be. This is our mission field. We've done everything for her that she needed during this time of her life. She needed someone to step up, make sure she had all her therapies done, all her specialist intakes done, make sure she got through these withdrawals. And we were equipped to do that. I knew how to do that. So God placed her in my life so that I could pour into her for that period of time. Did not make it easy. Didn't make it, I don't feel things. Here, take this baby. It was hard, very hard. But my kids, they stayed home from school and they said goodbye to her and they were sad and they still ask about her. What do you think she's doing? And I'm like, I have no idea, but she's like 4 now. So
Are you
I'm
serious?
Sure. Yeah, it's been a few years. And so I'm like, I'm sure she's doing amazing. Like, God.
I don't know what I remember from that age. I don't think I remember anything at 8 months, right?
Yeah.
But I wonder if she remembers you.
I don't know that she does, but I know she feels healthy.
Yep.
And
it's a very formidable time.
She learned attachment. Life. She learned how to attach safely
have a relationship.
Healthy. That's right. All of those things start in utero, really. And so if you're already missing that in utero because of drugs and the mom being in a very domestic violence situation, high cortisone levels, things like that, man, to have that when you come out and have somebody to take care of you, that's important. Mm-hmm. So she learned healthy attachment in those 8 months. She may not remember, Miss Sondra and Mr. Yomi did it, but her body knows what it means to attach healthy and safely to somebody else. And so even though it was hard, it was what we were meant to do at that time. Yeah. And sometimes letting go is even harder when you don't think they're going somewhere safe.
Yeah.
And that sometimes happens with foster care. You know, we actually have a case right now that I have shed many tears over for one of my foster families, because I don't feel like they're being returned to a safe place, and there's nothing we can do, you know, except pray. And so we pray and we pray and we pray, and I just keep saying, God, shed light. If it's not safe, shed the light. Let it be seen quickly before somebody gets hurt again. And that's what I have to do. And you have to be able to lay that back in his hands, because they're his kids and they're not my kids. And so I have to be able to lay that back down and say, that's on you, God. Take care of them babies, because otherwise I would probably commit a crime and go kidnap them. Yeah. So I have to be able to, you know, trust him to take care of that from that point on. But fostering is important.
What do you recommend to families to deal with, you know, that moment that you had to let her go, that everybody stayed home from school and you had to say goodbye? What do you do to cope at that point? A healthy way to cope. What do you teach your parents? Because I'm just curious, because I don't think I could do this. I would love way too much, and I mean, I'm tearing up while you're telling me the story of this baby, and I'm like, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
My wife couldn't do it.
I tell you what, you can do things when you think you can't do things. When you take, not to be rude, but when you take the selfishness out of it and realize that it's not about you, it's about them and what they need, you can do it. You have to remove yourself from the equation, because if you can't remove yourself from the equation, you can't. I mean, honestly, parenting any kid is like that. At some point, all of my kids are going to go do what they want to do.
Like, I have grown kids now, and they had to leave, and it was
that
terrible.
hurts.
I think that's a good parallel.
You have to pull yourself out, right?
Yeah.
You have, when it's time for them to grow up and spread their wings, go. You have to say, oh, you know. And even on the way over here, my 13-year-old and my 17-year-old were in the back, and we was Paxton, Texas A&M. And I was like, oh, this is a decent school. You know, after you do 2 years, like at a community college down the road from us, so then you can come here maybe, and then you could come home every weekend. Like, I'm like planning their life. Like, this is the way it's going to go. And Bonji, my 13-year-old, was like, I'm not coming home every weekend. I was like, oh, no, because I'm moving to the dorm with you, because I don't trust you. I'm just going to follow you wherever you go. But at one point or another, they are going to, like, pull away from me. But as a parent, that's what you want for your own kids, right? The difference with fostering is that it's going to come faster, and it's going to come sooner, and it's an unknown.
Because with my daughter, when she turned 18, she moved in with her dad in San Antonio, because her community college was right around the corner, and it was a discount if she lived close. And I went numb. Like, I kind of went numb, knowing she was moving. Like, okay, we're just going to go through the motions. I didn't want to cry, so I just... Until the day he walked in the door to move her out. He walked in and he was like, hey, mama. And I just started crying. And he goes, what happened? And I was like, you're taking my baby. You know, it was just.
So what did you do, though? What did you do?
I probably ate my feelings at that point.
You ate your feelings a little bit?
Yeah.
Did you talk to friends about it?
Yes.
That's the key. That is the key. With TruLight, what we try to tell our families is get to know other families, because the world we live in, that we minister to kids in, is different than everybody else's world. It's not the same. I have families come in new all the time, and they're like, oh yeah, my sister raised 6 kids, I'm going to call her. And I'm like, she's not going to be of any help to you. You know, and they're like, why? Because her 6 kids aren't in the same place the kids you're getting are. But if you can find other families to talk to voice to gripe, because sometimes you just have to vent it all out. They understand, because they're in the same place as you. And so at TruLight, we really push that connection with other TruLight families. We have a Facebook group page. We have events all the time where our foster families can come together and talk to each other. And I mean, who else knows what it's like to have 27,000 court hearings? I do.
Sure.
Not me.
Okay, so that brings me to another question. So you have events, getting them together. I know that you're a nonprofit and that you have fundraisers and you raise money. Are you still supporting with the backpacks and with the stuff that you used to have in your garage?
Yes.
And is that still a part of TruLight and what you guys do?
It is. It's still a part of what we do. We really feel like that's what God called us to, is to support the families. And that's why I connect the families, because I feel like that's a key. to support, but also we supply them with things that they need. And kinship families. So kinship is people, grandparents, aunts, uncles, or close members of the family, that may have been friends of the family for a long time. Those are fictive kin. If they get kids, we want them to feel free to come out and get what they need, because that's still part of it. And that was one of the big things that having TruLight was so cool, because nobody can tell me I can't go help somebody else.
That's right.
And I
No
don't
matter
feel
who
like
they are.
that's right. I don't feel like I should ever be put in a box to help people. And so now I get to do that, and so people call. We've even had people call where a lady was about to get dismissed from her lease and she was going to be homeless. So one of my staff went to court with her, tried to help her, tried to walk with her through that. And that's that piece of support. We still want to offer that to everybody.
Very cool. Help me understand 35 beds. Does that mean that you and your husband, if full, are fostering 35 kids at one time?
No.
What does it mean? What does that mean?
We have 4 houses on 10 acres. So there's 4 different houses on 10 acres. And in those houses, we have staff that helps take care of the kids. A lot of the kids do call me mom.
But who are these kids? And I guess they're not in foster?
They are in foster care. These are kids that can't find foster homes.
Okay, so you're a holding place until they can find foster?
Some of them are very, very short term. They come into care. Court shows up 2 weeks after kids are removed. There's a court hearing. Sometimes family shows up then. They've heard about it. They know what's going on with their family. They want to step in and help. So they live with us. They're not with us literally, but they live with us. I feel like they're all my kids on campus. And then their kinship gets licensed or whatever they need to do, and they get placed there. Sometimes though, kids stay there for a very long time. Up to a year or 2, we've had some kids there before, and it's because it's harder to place them. And those kids are teenagers, large sibling groups. And so, like right now, we have a sibling group of 5. We have several teenagers right now. And then we have a couple that just are kind of lingering in their case where, this is a single kid, but he's got grandma and grandpa who's trying their best to get everything done. And so we don't want to move them to another place just because it's taken a while. So they stay, until that can be worked through and things.
Okay, just random way my brain works. Are they in school?
Yes.
In public school?
Yes. They are playing sports. We have... at this point, football season just ended for us, but we had 3 football players.
Wow.
We had 2 cheerleaders, or dance team. Let me get it right, because they correct me all the time. They were not cheerleaders. They were on the dance team. Now we have 2 basketball players out there. No, 3, because the boys just finished football, so he'll be jumping into basketball. So they get to play sports at school. We had a little guy who was 6, that's too young to play sports at school, so we got him into the local private groups that play sports, the little teams that are out there. So we try to make it normal.
That's very cool. So you have 4 houses on the property.
Correct.
And so in each of those houses, they have their own kitchens and they have their own meals. So it's not like you have this group cafeteria meal.
No.
Right. And you have 6 kids of your own. So y'all have your own family unit.
Yes.
And you're not worried about they're going to eat and they're going to get their things done and their homework and get to, you're mainly in charge of your own.
Yes.
And your full-time job is TruLight127 Ministries, the nonprofit.
How many staff do you have running all those houses?
Altogether, because we also have our foster homes and our adoptive home. So we have about 190 kids under our umbrella. Okay. And we have 70 total staff and 94 foster families, I believe, right now.
70 staff?
Yes, it takes a lot to
are they
manage 35 kids on. So that's with our case managers that help our foster families too. So we have about 30 something that is actually direct care that works with the kids on a daily basis that live there.
Because you have to have 24/7.
24/7 awake. 24/7 awake staff.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have day shift, night shift. People have shifts that they work.
Yeah.
That's
And
how
you
it was
pay
in the
them.
shelter I lived in too.
Yes.
So when I'm just trying to build a case for why TruLight127 needs support.
And they do chores and all that too, right? Like the kids.
Oh yes.
That's how we had to do it.
Yeah, they do. They have to take care of their own rooms. Certain age has to wash their own clothes, and then we have days where they need to go clean the vans because it gets destroyed quickly.
So you have to have vans.
You have to have
have food. You have to have electricity, clothes.
We have
school supplies, sports toys, and when you got kids in dance team, That ain't free.
No, no. You
You
have
got
to buy leotards and
sure.
tights and certain shoes and
Everybody's getting a
slippers and
T-shirt, so you got to get the
oh,
T-shirt.
well, I mean that's for real. Like we had Spirit Week and so I want all 35 kids if they're all in school to be able to participate in
Sure.
Spirit Week. So Spirit Week came and everybody had certain colors they were supposed to wear some days and it's funny we had a little boy out there at the village and my little boy who were like besties and so one morning I'm texting the staff and I was like, hey Tina, what color is he wearing, because Abaya wants to be his twin. It was twin day and everybody always thinks they're twins anyway because they do look similar and so they were like matching up their blues to be twins that day. But then come the day when they were supposed to have school spirit, I was like, okay, I need the booster club because I'm going to need like 30 shirts for school spirit. And so we bought 30 shirts so they got to participate in school spirit day. Those are normal activities that I would make sure my 6 kids get to do. And so I want to make sure those kids at the village get to do those things too.
I love
And
that.
so we have sports, but then we have things like Spirit Week and Kindness Week. And, when everybody got to dress up for the character parade at school, I didn't want our kids at the village not to have that opportunity.
Yeah.
So we make sure they get to do all of those things. And yes, we have a contract and we get some money from the state. It is what they think is basic care of the kids. I don't believe in basic care of kids, though. So, we do movie nights and we go out to the movies. We try to take them we have some kids from the Austin, Killeen area. And so they go to Austin once a week. I'd like to make sure that they have gift cards to eat so that, that's late. They get there, they have a visit from 4 to 6. Maybe their parents don't bring them enough snacks or food. I'm not going to let them starve till they get all the way back, So they eat, they grab McDonald's or Burger King, even just something fun for them to do because it's hard saying goodbye to your parents, right? You go, you spend 2 hours and you say goodbye. So yes, I want them to be able to stop and grab something to eat and kind of settle their thoughts and thinking. Also, each of our houses, we don't do across the board menus. So we don't do like the USDA, here's what everybody's eating off the lunch tray.
Yeah.
So every house gets to help make up their own menus.
That's cool.
And so the staff in the house cooks for them. They sit down as a big giant family and they eat together. And
so that reminds me, I told you earlier, I have a story. So I think it's interesting how we develop as human beings based on our environment and our experiences. And, if depending on the first time you ever heard of the word foster and what you think that meant at that time in your life, really set the tone for how you probably think of it as an adult.
Yes.
I've always had a really healthy perspective on that whole concept because when I was in 4th grade, I don't know why, some things just stay in your mind. But my dad was a minister of music at Humble First Baptist Church, and we had 4 boys and at that time I was probably 8, so it was like 10, 8, 4, and 2. My youngest brother doesn't even remember it, but there was a foster family that attended our church, and they had like 15 kids. Like they were a big old, they were like a mini, a ministry because this husband and wife had felt led into that relationship. So they were like, give us all we can take. And they had a big house, a big, it felt like a big, like the Waltons or something, like a big ranch house. And it had a country kitchen because I remember we all sat at the same table. So they would in my mind, they were just inviting us over for lunch just to hang out because we were friends with some of those kids because we were all the same age as somebody, and we'd go play, and then our moms got food ready, and we probably ate fried chicken and iced tea and the whole Sunday afternoon after church meal, and they had a trampoline in a big old backyard. I remember that. Well, at some point, one of the older boys, it was like 15 or 16, remember he had curly hair, and he stood up and he went over to get the pitcher of tea off the counter. And when he came back, before he sat down and before he served himself, he asked if anybody else wanted iced tea. Right? He filled up everybody's tea that wanted some, and then he filled up his own. And I'll never forget that my whole life. That kid knew to put others before himself. Yeah. And he was taught that value by somebody, either probably those parents. Like, hey, around here we do unto others as we'd have them, and they were teaching them those values. Turns out later, so I have a brother who is about 3 years younger than me, and he was probably 5 or 6 at the time. There was a little girl that was 5 or 6 at the time, and we almost adopted her.
Oh.
She used to come and visit our house, and just her. And then she'd hang out, and my little brother and her fought. And my parents prayed about it, and they were like, "Nah, we can't do this. They're gonna kill each other if we bring her." And I think my mom just wanted a little girl.
Yeah.
And this little girl needed a home.
Yeah.
And so we dipped our toe. They dipped their toe in it and said, "No, not right now." It's not, and we never did. But that was my first experience with the foster situation.
Yeah.
And I've always felt, like you were saying earlier, like, it breaks my heart for these people, these kids that don't have what I had. I had two parents that loved me, and we take that for granted. And the older we get, well, as adults, Sonia's got this, and Laura's got this, and Laura's sister's got this, and Dawn's got this, and there's always more we could do, even if we're not called to like frontline it.
Yeah.
There's support, right? And that's what I think I want to make sure people understand is that TruLight127 Ministries has needs.
Yes.
You guys have a Christmas thing every year.
Yes.
That's what Laura told us about. That's what hooked her, because she got super excited. Remember Laura Gerald? She got super excited about providing Christmas for these kids. So tell me about True Light Christmas.
Because this is coming out in time for people to help. Maybe.
Yes. December 18th, we have a Christmas bash. Christmas is literally my favorite time of the year. Like, I can never wait for October to finish so I can start decorating.
She got her tree
and I already got October 31st.
Get on Facebook
That's
and follow her on Facebook. And it's like almost every day there's she makes a joke about it.
October 31st, like my kids are getting dressed for Halloween and I'm like decorating. I took my 17-year-old and my 9-year-old. I already had on these pajamas that had like Mom Elf on it and these red and white striped pajama bottoms. And I was like, come on, we got to go to the store because I got to get a different tree because I needed a different tree. I mean, obviously, I needed a new tree. And my husband had said, as long as you're not going crazy, then, you do Christmas. So I was like, okay, I need a tree. And so he's like, don't you have 5? And I was like, yeah, but they're skinny. I kind of want a fat one. So we went and we were going into Walmart and...
Wait, you have 5 Christmas trees already?
But they're skinny.
They're skinny trees.
They're skinny.
I needed a
That's
big
what you
one.
need to know.
They don't count. So...
They don't count.
So we go to Walmart first because I'm thinking, okay, save money. I'll just go to Walmart. And I couldn't find one that just sat with me. So then I end up at a different store and my kids are like, you're going dressed like that? And I was like, yeah. And so my 17-year-old girl, she's like, yeah, people just think it's your Halloween costume. I was like, but it's not. This isn't about Halloween. This is about Christmas.
She said it so normal, like, yeah, I have 5 and I needed they're too skinny. So
yeah, they're too skinny.
Wouldn't everybody feel that way?
So Christmas is literally my favorite time of year. Plus, I get to throw this huge Christmas bash for our foster families and our families who have adopted. So we invite everybody back every year.
Oh,
and so we normally have around 300 kids running around going crazy.
Wow.
And I firmly believe that every child there gets 2 gifts. That's just the way it is. They need 2 gifts, and that includes the adopted ones, the biological ones, and the foster ones. And I believe that because the biological kids sacrifice a lot when you bring in foster kids, and they should not be left behind. And so a lot of people only want to give to the foster kids. I'm like, but you don't understand. Like, my biological kids, my 2 sons that I gave birth to, are in this with me. And they had mom by themselves for so long. Then suddenly I start bringing in babies that are addicted to drugs and they need my attention. And then I bring in other 5 and 6-year-olds and, all these. And then I open up a whole village and add more kids. So I'm not going to leave other people's kids behind.
Yeah.
And so we make sure every kid feels like it's Christmas at that party. And we work really hard. We have entertainment, we feed them, and we give them gifts, and they run around making crafts and, just decorating cookies, just having fun. I really believe that kids in foster care have already had a lot of terrible memories. So we try to replace those memories with some fun memories, and Christmas is one of them.
Okay, that's awesome. And
it.
so a little more detail, like
go.
what do you
Yes.
Well, if I help volunteer, can I go or can I just donate gifts what do we need to do?
Oh, you can do many, many things. So we definitely like toy drives. So it's really hard. And I know people have a good heart, but they're always like, can you just give us a list of kids and all the things that they wish for? It's really hard because foster kids sometimes rotate back out the door, right? And so I can't keep up with constant rotating things. So I love toy drives. So that is our biggest thing. We ask for people to do toy drives, and then we ask for people to do gift card drives. So our teenagers aren't getting, 12 footballs for Christmas, because that's usually what they get. So
but an Academy.
That's
or
right.
something.
Academy, Old Navy,
Sure.
Target, some different stores that they can go and be kids.
What's a
and
toy
buy
drive?
things. A toy drive is just where a lot of our businesses, local churches, they just set up a box and
Throw toys in here.
Throw toys, and
Then
when you're
y'all
shopping,
get to go through them and say, okay, we know who this is for.
We go through, we match, we have a list of all the kids attending to the party, and sometimes we have a lot of kinship that can't come, but we want to make sure they have the funds and things to take care of their grandkids or whatever it may be. And so we make sure that they get gifts too. So we sort, we wrap, we do all those things. So if you're a rapper, man, we would love to have you. We usually schedule it this Saturday before, so I think that's the 10th. I may be wrong, so check that.
I bet you need
11?
a lot of
11.
rappers.
Yes. So we usually try to schedule that the Saturday before. We have people come in and they rap. And so, man, my assistant Jennifer is amazing, and our good another elf is Shannon, who works for us. Them two get together. They start organizing. They keep me under control, me and my ADHD, and and we just knock it out. We have. Sometimes we have Girl Scout groups that come,
Oh, that's cool.
and junior high, middle high school kids that come out and
So
they
it's like
rap.
a rapping party.
Yes, we
Yeah.
have snacks, we have cookies, we have
You're going to
drinks.
need a lot of rappers.
A
For
lot
that
of
many
rappers.
gifts.
So I did
lot of-
notice-
Minimum 600 gifts.
Right.
Minimum.
Minimum.
Yeah, you're doing.
Yeah.
She's like the math.
And you got to keep them organized. So you have to keep
Yeah.
the family name, the kid's name.
before you
Wow.
wrap it up.
Yes.
So the December 10th, I think, is the deadline based on the website.
Yes.
Or the flyer I saw. So December 10th is the deadline to deliver everything.
Yes.
So that December 11th it can all
We
get
can wrap
wrapped.
them up, and we knock it out in a day. So we have a lot of volunteers that we need to come, and it's so much fun. It's so much fun because you don't understand how it is to not have Christmas, and okay, you do know what Christmas is, but you're not with your family now. So
Yeah.
we want Christmas to not be a bummer. We want things to do. So another thing we do is we do family gift bags. And in that family gift bags, we give them to our foster families and we say, have fun. And so there's usually hot chocolate, marshmallows in there, maybe popcorn, maybe movie passes, different things
Cool.
in that bag so that they can have some fun. Because that's 2 weeks that the kids are out of school.
Sure. Yeah.
And they're all home, trust me.
And-
They're all home.
Yeah.
And they could be overwhelmed financially, like you said, just because they're fostering doesn't mean money's falling out of the sky for them.
Right.
And so it might be a nice little gesture for them to go have a movie night that doesn't cost them an arm and a leg.
Yeah, I mean, if you have 6 kids, movie night's like it's a thing. Like movies aren't cheap anymore. I don't find them $1-2 movies like when I was a kid. Like
Right.
it cost me
$1
$2.50
theater.
to go into the movies. Now it's like $25 for me to go to the movies. So it's a good blessing for them. And again, they're doing the hard work, and we're here to support them. And they're the ones. So if you can't foster and adopt, you can support that family by doing something very nice and you're already shopping.
Yeah.
You're already going to spend some money. What's the deal of
Sure.
taking a $25 and putting it in a
course.
gift card to movies or $50?
Yeah.
So it's really easy. And then volunteering at the party. There's a little process, not much, to volunteer at the party, but you can come out and help us serve, help us man those craft tables.
Yeah.
With all the kids running around, and then helping us. That's a lot. If you have family with 5 kids and they all get 2 gifts each, that's 10 plus your family bag. We have
Help them
people
get 'em to the car.
hauling stuff to the cars.
That's cool. So,
That's cool.
what if there was a church group, a women's ministry or men's ministry or whatever, youth that wanted to jump in? They could talk about helping as a group.
Yes.
Because some of the best craft people I know are at church, working in the nursery and
it's
working.
not me, but yes.
I know.
Have you listed on ServSpot? Have you heard of ServSpot?
I have not.
So there's an organization here in town that does the Big Serve every year, and they do it several times a year now.
Big give.
No, Big Serve. It's the day, and they did it a couple weeks ago where they go out and there's a bunch of different projects they'll do for the community. So it's like
neat.
Match,
Oh.
but for nonprofits and
You need it
volunteers.
done. They want to volunteer.
Oh.
So volunteers
that's
go
cool.
and
Love
sign
that.
up, go look at things that they want to do, and I'll hook you up with Kimberly.
Yes.
How come we haven't had her on our podcast?
I just met her. Give me a minute.
Takes a while.
Yeah, we just did a project for them and donated a video for their big
Very
surf spot
cool.
that Austin got to do for them.
That
So
would be
anyway,
awesome.
Yeah, and I didn't know it was existed either. But there's a ton of volunteers that go to this website looking for an opportunity
It
to
makes
serve
sense.
someone.
As we're growing here and people are moving from all over,
Yes.
there are people that come in like, okay, I'm new to this town. How do I get involved and volunteer if they don't have that social group?
Yeah.
And it's a great way to meet people.
Yes.
It's a great way to plug into the community.
Yeah, and
And
it's
so
free. So I will hook you up with Kimberly so you can figure out how
Yes,
to
I
get
would
on
love
there.
that.
That could be some
And
workforce.
I'll make sure there's a link in the description of this video as well. So hopefully you'll
It's
be
always
listed by
fun
then.
because my kids always, like, people always want to adopt them out because my kids are showing their cute side there.
Yeah.
And so they're like, oh, is that kid up for adoption? I'm like, yeah. No, it's not. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah.
Is
You
that
can't have him.
like, is that a game that your kids play, or is that
They always try to act super cute at the
they'll come up
Christmas
to you and go,
party.
hey, that one over there?
Yeah.
I'd take them.
It's
You're
fun,
like, you
but
sure?
He's
It's
like,
also
"Where
a
you live? What you
non-committed,
got?"
like, right? You just commit to volunteering for a day, to helping out for a
Yeah,
day,
that's not
and
as huge as-
you're not taking all the kids home. But on the flip side, my mind is, look at how cute these kids are. Don't you think you could take a few kids home? Like,
Yeah,
Well, it could
yeah.
plant a seed, sure. It's an
yeah,
opportunity.
there's 20,000 kids in care on any given day in Texas.
Yeah.
On any given day. So, there's a great need out there. And there's a great need for people to step up and foster. There's also a need for people to step up and adopt. But the emergencies, the hardest thing for me at Christmas time is having to say no. Because where are those kids going to go? Not that there's not other shelters or things out there, but I know what I get to do with the kids. Christmas Eve, my husband is sneaking up there, and we go up there Christmas Eve and we have dinner. And that's always great and fun. And they get Christmas Eve bags, pajamas, and a new book, maybe a new pillow, different things. And they have dinner. We all have dinner together. That's important to me. And my kids get to come up there too. So, they eat and they hang out with the kids. And it's all just, that gets to me to be the big mama to all of them, right? I get that moment with them. And then Christmas Day, I stay with, of course, my 6 kids. But Christmas Eve night, my husband's usually the one up there sneaking, taking everybody's gifts to the houses. So their trees are bare until they wake up Christmas morning.
So he's Santa Claus to all the houses on the 10 acres.
That's right. He's the giant 6'7" Nigerian Santa.
That's awesome. Yeah, I met him and I downstairs and I shook his hand and he like,
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah, so he gets to be Santa, and they wake up to presents, and they wake up
That's
to
cool.
seeing their tree empty one minute, and then it's just packed with gifts. Those kids that live at the village, we make sure they wake up like any other kid
Sure.
wakes up. They actually get way more than my kids because we limit our
You
kids.
limit yours. You're training them up.
That's right.
Well, as usual, we can do this all day long, but we're running out of
I
camera
know we're like
battery,
at
so we have
4
to-
hours, but no, we got to break for lunch.
Yeah.
No, we sometimes it just goes like it's supposed to go, and so if somebody doesn't want to listen to an hour and 5 minutes of you, then that's their problem because we could go on and go on and on. So
Yeah.
we loved meeting you.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah, whatever we can do to help you, we're gonna let the world know as much as our little world know that
Yeah.
that you're doing what you're doing and that they can help.
Awesome.
And let's have an awesome Christmas.
Yes.
All right. Till next time.